Creators, for the first time ever, have had unprecedented distribution and deeply committed communities, much more than institutions or corporations. And what this is leading to is they're really inverting the traditional pattern of business building, where they're typically starting with education or content, and then they're building an entire world and business around that, which completely flips the paradigm upside down. And I think this is a really big deal and very exciting, because I believe it's going to be the creators that are going to be the ones educating us, informing us, and entertaining us in literally every aspect of our lives. And it's just getting started.
3, 2, 1, let's go!
The most valuable brands of tomorrow and new institutions will all form around people, not companies. And the main reason for that is, for the first time ever, individuals have more distribution than large organizations because they have the direct relationship with their audience and their communities. So what does this mean? That means that they can actually be true disruptors. They can bypass gatekeepers in many of our industries that control our supply chains and control the narrative. But the challenge is this, which is these creators typically operate in their own independent worlds and have their own individual communities and audiences, which is the beauty. It's really a decentralized network. So we actually have to create support systems and infrastructure to coordinate this. But I believe if we can actually start coordinating this, you can enable a type of direct distribution at scale where we can bypass many of the gatekeepers that hold the keys to our supply chains and many aspects of our economy. Let's talk about the importance of distribution. So over the past 5 years, I've been a full-time angel investor, and my entire thesis has been around changing the way that we make things. So what does that mean? Largely investing in early stage technologies that are moving us from large, dirty, centralized systems of production to more decentralized, clean ones that are ultimately better for both human and planetary health. And so I'm oftentimes one of the first checks in, and I'm investing in things like low-cost lab automation, new types of fermentation technologies, and in other industrial tech. Most of the founders that I back are technical. Scientists, engineers, researchers. They're the ones inventing these technologies and making novel chemicals, ingredients, materials, and even finished products. And I'm always chirping their ear about distribution and how it should be part of the product design process. My number one rule is you should be thinking about distribution even before you start making a product. Because if you don't have distribution, you don't really have much of anything from a business standpoint. So if you've invented something new, but have not created an effective way to sell and distribute it, you have a bad business, no matter how good the product is. And I've seen this play out repeatedly in the industrial space, as many of these industries are, in fact, de facto monopolies. And the startups that don't think about distribution from the beginning and don't create their own distribution strategies are forced to work within the current system. And that usually means one of two things. One, they have to work with the traditional wholesale distributors, or two, they enter into these co-development deals with large corporations where essentially the corporation is just outsourcing their R&D to the startup, and they slap a bunch of IP restrictions on the company, and they restrict who else they can actually work with. So it ends up really hurting the startup in the long run. Nearly every industry in the real economy has these gatekeepers or wholesale distributors. And the reason why they have this power is because they own the end customer relationship. So what you'll see oftentimes in the B2B space is this concept of an exclusive distributor. So if you contact a company or a supplier that makes a specific type of product, they'll say, if you want to purchase it, you have to work with this distributor who does our exclusive distribution for our product. So you're forced to actually work with that distributor as the end customer. In the B2B2C space, which is a fancy word typically for retail, like Home Depot or a Best Buy, if you're looking to work with them, they'll say, okay, we'll purchase your product, but if you do, you have to work with our short list of distributors. It might be a third party, or it might be their own distribution function that they own in-house. So there are pretty much choke points everywhere in nearly every industry in the real economy. These choke points have even creeped into the digital economy as well, as big tech now controls nearly all the distribution and owns the end customer relationships. So whether that's Google with search, Apple through the App Store, or Amazon requiring sellers to advertise on the platform if they want to show up on a sponsored listing or the first page of results. So when it comes to distribution, we have choke points everywhere in our economy. And as an angel investor and entrepreneur, I'm always fighting for the startup and the little guy to disrupt the incumbent in the current system. And so this is when I started really thinking about how do I help these scientists and engineers and other entrepreneurs develop direct distribution and to do it at scale. Before I talk about going direct, let's talk about the distributor function as it exists today. Wholesale distribution has played an important role since ancient times when the first trade routes and marketplaces were developed. And as societies grew and commerce expanded, the need for intermediaries between the consumer and the producer became essential. It served a really important function that allowed the producers to focus on making the best things that they make, and it provided a level of convenience and trust with the buyer. Wholesale distribution will always play an important role in commerce. It's not going anywhere. But what it has done and will continue to do is it will evolve as the market and the economy changes. Let's talk about wholesale distribution and how it's going to change over the next 10 to 20 years. I'm seeing multiple technologies come together that I believe will end up commoditizing away many of the services that intermediaries provide in today's economy. And what this is going to do is this is going to force the whole wholesale distribution model to change. So in this section, I'm first going to break down the current role of wholesale distribution, the services that they provide, and the technologies that are coming together that are going to lead to commoditizing them away. The first function is logistics. This includes import-export services, facilitating long-form transport, as well as last-mile logistics to get products to its final destination. Now, what's interesting is multiple technologies have been built and are coming down the pipeline that are going to commoditize away this function. This includes route planning software, real-time tracking, and autonomous driving, which will automate the entire logistics process and make them much more efficient and reduce the need for humans in the loop. Now, the second thing that distributors most often provide are warehousing and fulfillment services. Now, this function has been completely transformed over the past decade, and one can make the case for has already been commoditized, and that's been the rise of 3PLs, which stands for third-party logistics. And all this are companies specialized in this warehousing and storage and fulfillment of orders for other companies. So whether you're sending a truckload of product all the way down to a pair of shoes, there are 3PLs of all sizes servicing all types of niche markets out there for you today. And it's pretty fascinating. If you go into some of these warehouses, with Amazon being the most well-known with their FBA program, they have already implemented a wide variety of technologies, including robotics and automation, to make these highly efficient operations, and they're only going to get more efficient. The third thing distributors often provide are back office functions. This includes order management and handling invoicing and payments. This creates a tremendous amount of value for buyers because they can find multiple products in one place, distributors can standardize information, and they create a one-stop shop to handle all the invoicing and payment processes, which creates a tremendous amount of convenience for the end buyer. Now, we all know there's endless amount of online ordering platforms and software that's already been developed. It's already highly efficient. Companies like Shopify and Stripe are getting better every day. And then this, coupled with a variety of AI technologies that are being developed today, will continue to commoditize and automate this function away. So despite many of the core services that distributors provide today being commoditized away, there's one critical piece we have not spoke about, and it's really important, is they still own the end customer relationship. And this is the critical piece. So as long as they own these end customer relationships, distributors will continue to control our supply chains and control the markets. And so if you want to actually bypass a distributor and control your own distribution and go direct, you have to develop and manage your customer relationships directly. It's that simple. Or not. Building direct distribution is not easy. And I've been thinking for a long time about how can we create a system to help more companies go direct and to do that with any type of meaningful scale. And it was a few years back that I actually had my aha moment. So back in 2018, I started listening to podcasts. And over a 5-year period, it became the number one source of how I consumed my information across a variety of topics. And I found it to be the best medium to find objective, intellectually honest, and independent information that I could trust. But it wasn't until about 3 years ago where the light bulb really went off. And what I realized back then was I had unintentionally stopped watching and reading all traditional media sources. I didn't have one paid subscription to a traditional news source or cable television service. I just had a weekly rotating list of podcasts and YouTube videos that I was consuming every day. But the bigger deal was this. I realized that nearly every new product that I introduced into my life and purchased during that time frame was discovered through those same podcasts and YouTube channels. And that covered a variety of topics, everything from education, fitness, nutrition, entertainment, and even travel. They were all introduced to me through this network of creators and specialists that I trusted and that I was consuming their content on a consistent basis. This is a really big deal. We are entering the next chapter of the creator economy, one in which I believe will be much bigger and have much more impact on our lives than the previous decade. It will be the creator economy that educates us, entertains us, and influences us on who to trust and what products to buy in literally every aspect of our lives.